From time to time, at rare moments, the great spirit of invention descends to Earth to reveal a secret which will advance humanity. He selects the most suitable, the most deserving, and whispers the secret in their ear. Like a flash of light, the precious knowledge appears. Grasping the hidden meaning, the lucky recipient sees a magic change. There's a new world before his enraptured eyes, one he barely recognizes as a semblance of the old. This is not a passing illusion, the mere play of a vivid imagination or a phantom of mist that will dissolve away. The marvels he sees, as remote in time as they appear to be, will come to pass. He knows it. There's not a shadow of doubt in his mind. He feels it in every fiber of his body. It is a great idea. Nikola Tesla was born at midnight between June 9 and 10, 1856, in the village of Smiljan in Lika, the military frontier area in the Austrian Empire. In many interviews he later gave as a renowned inventor in the USA, he described a childhood full of happiness, spent playing in the company of his large family, already showing his future genius. His father, Milutin, was parish priest of the Orthodox Church of Saints Peter and Paul in Smiljan. According to Nikola Tesla himself, he was a true philosopher, a poet and writer with a remarkable memory. For one of his sermons, he was honored by the Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph. He also left a wonderful description of a shower of meteors near Smiljan on July 12, 1855, the year before Nikola was born. In some way, this heralded the birth of his son, the genius. Tesla's mother, Juka, of whom no portrait survives, was from one of the oldest and most respected Serbian families in Lika. Her celebrated son Nikola later wrote that his mother, although illiterate, was a genius with great intuition. She had a special gift for invention and skilled fingers with which she wove the most beautiful patterns. Her brother Nikola's uncle, the future Bishop Nikolai, was highly skilled at making home decorative pieces of wood and iron. He was also a specialist in bookbinding. The documentary records of Tesla's maternal ancestors, the Budisavljević family, are especially interesting. The Budisavljevićes were a family of many prominent Orthodox Church priests and also many military officers. During the 18th and 19th centuries, 2 members of the Budisavljević family were awarded noble titles by the Austrian Empire for their military achievements. They were raised in the spirit of war and courage, with a military understanding of humor, characteristics which were passed down from generation to generation. To understand Tesla's genuine and unusual personality, it's important to bear in mind the trio of important influences on his life: the culture and value system imbued by his family, his education in European scientific institutions, and the pragmatic American environment which not only allowed him to implement his revolutionary inventions from an early age, but also to continue with his complicated and expensive experiments. Between 1873 and 1880, Tesla studied engineering at the Graz University of Technology and the Charles University in Prague. This was the pioneering era for the science of electricity, and it was during Tesla's second year at Graz that he first saw the Gramme dynamo producing direct current, along with a noisy shower of sparks, and later working as a motor. Boldly, he stood and told Professor Peschel that he believed it was possible to make a more efficient machine which would work with alternating current. Despite the criticism of his teacher and the explanation that alternating current motors were impossible, in the years that followed, Tesla persisted in thinking about this problem, trusting his intuition. During this time, he developed an ingenious method of invention. This was based on the unusual ability of visualizing for himself a 3-dimensional moving image of something he had imagined while awake and conscious. These images were so realistic and precise that he found drawings, measurements, and experiments were unnecessary. In 1882, Tesla was in Budapest, where his uncle, Pia Mandic, helped him find employment in Tivada Puskas's telephone exchange. He soon showed his talent, producing his first unpatented invention, an amplifying telephone for the transmission of live music. There, in a park in Budapest, at sunset one February afternoon, walking with his friend Szigeti and reciting verses from Goethe's Faust, Tesla found what he had sought for 5 years. The elusive solution for an alternating current motor sprang into his mind. Using a stick, he was able to draw in the sand plans for the invention which was to make him famous. Rotating magnetic fields created by an alternating current. Over the following 2 years, while working in a branch of Edison's company in Paris and Strasbourg, Tesla completed his visualization to the end of the experiment and made the first working models. He even made his first attempt to commercialize his motor. But at that time, it was difficult to persuade European entrepreneurs to accept new ideas, and, at his supervisor's urging, he finally decided to leave Paris and try his luck in America. Tesla arrived in America in 1884 on the RMSS City of Richmond with 4 cents to his name, a few songs and calculations for a flying machine. In his pocket he had one more valuable letter, one of recommendation from Charles Batchelor to Thomas Edison. In it, Batchelor wrote, "I know 2 great men and you are one of them. The other is this young man." Tesla's first job was to improve Edison's dynamos, and he worked at this job with the real passion and commitment of a young man who had just one goal: to interest Edison in inventions in the area of alternating currents. But the goals and methods of the 2 inventors were too far from each other, and it was inevitable that they would go their separate ways. It didn't take long for Tesla to find investors for his revolutionary invention. With the help of lawyer Charles Peck, he established his own laboratory in Liberty Street, New York, in 1887. There, he finally made true prototypes of the first induction motors and applied for patent protection for them. After giving a brilliant lecture at the American Society of Electrical Engineers, Tesla contacted George Westinghouse, owner and founder of the company which bears his name. Westinghouse decided to buy the patent for Tesla's system for the production, transmission, and use of polyphase alternating currents. This was a dream come true for Tesla, but also the beginning of new temptations. Tesla found himself in the middle of a ruthless fight between Edison and Westinghouse for market dominance. In popular science, this was known as the War of the Currents. Edison tried in vain to prove the value of direct current. The benefits of Tesla's alternating current system quickly became obvious, especially for the transmission of electricity over long distances. When Westinghouse used Tesla's system to light the World Exhibition in Chicago in 1893, a decisive blow was struck to the supporters of direct current. The exhibition opened in May 1903 with spectacular light shows and a demonstration of the complete transmission system for alternating current. This removed the last hurdle to its universal adoption. The Chicago success helped Westinghouse to obtain a contract to build a hydroelectric power plant at the Niagara Falls. This historic event was perhaps the most significant step towards creating a second industrial revolution. Of the 13 patents used in building the Niagara power system, 9 belonged to Tesla. Suddenly, Tesla was very famous. His inventions, discoveries, and visions were widely accepted by the scientific community, both at home and abroad. They were published in scientific magazines, daily and weekly newspapers, and in highly credible literary and intellectual reviews. During the last decade of the 19th century, Tesla became a superstar, a celebrity, and a very important person in New York's upper echelons. Prestigious American and European universities were falling over themselves to present him with medals and honors. After a lecture to the Royal Society in London in 1892, Tesla was advised by leading English scientists to concentrate his enormous creative energy on one problem. More and more, Tesla focused on the problem of meeting humanity's energy needs. From May 1899 until January 1900, Tesla stayed in Colorado Springs. There, in an unattractive timber laboratory, he undertook fascinating experiments with an oscillating transformer of 12 million volts and discovered resonant frequencies of the Earth, which established stationary waves. He believed he had found a mechanism which would transmit energy and information around the world. Later, writing to his most important sponsor, J.P. Morgan, he said, "I have found the new philosopher's stone. My discovery is so revolutionary that it will impact almost all social values and relations." On his return to New York in January 1900, Tesla published spectacular photographs from Colorado as part of a visionary article about the future of the global society entitled "The Problem of Increasing Human Energy." Soon after this, financed by J.P. Morgan, he began to build a laboratory, the famous tower in Shoreham, Long Island, close to New York. The building, 60 meters tall, which he named the Increasing Transmitter because of its geometry, mechanical and electrical features, was a tower which corresponded to characteristics of the Earth and represented a similarly tied resonating system. He intended this system to support wireless emission and transmission of information and energy to any point on the Earth. But his plans were to come to naught. J.P. Morgan suddenly withdrew all his funds and refused to finance any further work by Tesla. It seems that the final purpose of Tesla's system was unacceptable, and that the whole project was ahead of its time. Tesla was shocked. In 1908, Tesla refocused his work on machine engineering and delivered a number of new inventions such as turbo machines and blades. He wanted to earn enough money to finance construction of his world wireless system himself. Thanks to business problems and an unreasonable approach, many of his ideas and projects were not completed, and today they remain as a point of interest for many engineers and researchers. This was a period when Tesla took critical aim at the developing trends of the contemporary world and presented many projections of the possible consequences of a number of issues. During the 1920s, he preached about the need to conserve the energy which humanity was consuming profligately, the necessity to find new alternative and renewable sources of energy, and the inevitability of moderating consumption. He promoted a culture of human values, a serious education which would balance the acquisition of skills with the nurturing of ideals. After the beginning of the Great Depression in 1929, he closed his laboratories and agencies and gave up on his efforts to develop a business based on the commercialization of his own discoveries. In his last years, he was notable for giving sensational interviews in which he announced a new dynamic theory of gravity, machines to use energy from the environment, and a new type of defensive weapon. This last sparked the interest of American, German, British, and Soviet intelligence agencies. After signing a contract to protect the Soviet Union from air attacks by constructing what he called a death ray, he had a suspicious traffic accident, which hastened his death. Tesla died peacefully in his sleep on Orthodox Christmas Day in 1943. He left behind 300 patents and thousands of sketches, notes, and ideas which are today preserved in the Tesla Museum in Belgrade. In the last days of his life, he said, "A great man is one who collects knowledge as bees collect honey and uses it to help other people find their way out of the difficulties that weigh on them. Hunger, ignorance, disease."